Hello, everybody. Thank you for the question. So, Enactus, for all of you who don't know us, is the largest experiential learning platform in the world dedicated solely to engaging the next generation of your employees and consumers as leaders with a head for business and a heart for the world. So, what does that mean? That means that this year we have 72,000 students around the world in 37 countries working on their college campuses to create and launch projects that have social and profitable impact in their communities. They're strengthening their economies and their communities at the same time. So let me give you a few examples, because I don't know what you were doing at 18 years old, but I guarantee you I was not accomplishing what our students are accomplishing. In Canada, we have a team that launched a new hydroponic mobile growing unit by creating new hydroponic growing material, by utilizing otherwise discarded shipping containers to create a growing unit to serve food deserts, and they're launching that business through a franchise strategy to engage otherwise underemployed or unemployed individuals.
What is the name of this?
It's called The Grocer.
The Grocer, okay.
And they expect to launch that business across the entire country by the end of next year. In France, we have small projects launching in every community because we have 1,400 students on 60 campuses. And again, worldwide, 72,000 students creating projects like The Grocer around the world.
It's just, and do you see that you've been creating more than 30 years ago, okay? So what kind of differences can we see between young generation when Enactus started in 1975 and now?
Well, I like to say the world caught up to Enactus. The world finally understood that purpose matters in our work, right? And I can't really speak to 1975. I was a child then, but I can tell you a little bit about what we know about Gen Z, and it's probably things that are familiar to you as well, right? Today, we have the largest generation in history and the most entrepreneurial generation in history. They've come of age during a time of economic uncertainty. We heard a little bit from Edelman about how they feel about employers and large and small companies. They are looking for authenticity and purpose. That's why Enactus is so successful and so critical as a network of businesses and students together through Enactus, engaging students to understand what it means for a brand to create purpose and a company to have a triple bottom line.
So I'm a journalist, and especially an impact journalist, and I'm so amazed by all these inspiring people, change makers. So what kind of, do you think that the Gen Z is more attracted by the social entrepreneurship?
So we absolutely know that that's true, and I think research would support that as well. But the students that are attracted to Enactus
And why?
Are attracted in large part because we're creating a platform for them to take what they're learning in the classroom and actually implement it for real impact while they're at university. So imagine if you had graduated from university and you could say that you had launched 40 entrepreneurs in a place that was formerly unemployed and increased their average household income by 43% at the age of 18, 19, or 20. That's what one of our teams in Egypt is doing by creating a new product that leverages food waste into a new product in the market that already has market share before they've graduated from college. Our students are not only interested in business ideas, they're interested in impact, and that's why Enactus is so critical and how we distinguish ourselves. So why do we do this work? We know the world needs us. We know that you need us. We are preparing students for the workplace of the future. And when you look at the skills that our students gain through Enactus, they are not only gaining critical business skills, which we all know are relevant, but they are also outpacing their peers in the skills that the World Economic Forum defines as the most critical for the next 10 years. So what are those? That's resilience, cognitive creativity and dissonance, comfort with dissonance, all the things that Emmanuel and Danone and Interface spoke to at the opening yesterday, which is when you challenge your employees and your colleagues and give them permission to disrupt your own business, Not everybody can respond to that, but Enactus students can because they've already done it in their learning through Enactus.
Are you saying that in this 21st century, we are creating a Gen Z like activist entrepreneur?
Absolutely. That's a
Yeah.
great way to phrase it. I don't think that our students necessarily consider themselves activists, but they consider themselves social innovators. And they identify as values-driven leaders who are focused on social innovation, whether or not they aspire to work for some of the amazing global brands here, or whether or not they intend to create their own business. So today, we know that, interestingly, speaking to demographics, the majority of our students worldwide are women. When we look at emerging markets, we tend to have more women than men because they see social entrepreneurship as a clear path of opportunity. But true in Western markets as well. Here in France, I believe, we have a majority of females in our program as well. Social entrepreneurship is opening opportunities, as we all know, for everyone. What that means for our students is that they think differently about how they're going to approach their career. And to be very clear, we are sponsored by and partner with many of the brands represented here at Sustainable Brands. And even those students who intend to go work for Procter & Gamble or hope to work and aspire to work for any of the companies here, they also consider themselves entrepreneurs who will take those skills inward and become entrepreneurs and drive change.
Can you explain how does Enactus approach its role of being the coach of the SB Paris youth activators?
Happily. Enactus was very excited to be invited here to participate, and I think it was very wise of SB to want a young voice here at this incredible conference. So Enactus reached out to our student cohort and other university students. We have 50 students here, some in the audience here right now, who decided that they wanted to participate and invest in 3 days to ask hard questions to all of you in the audience.
Are they motivated? Yeah.
Yeah, just a little. And also to learn from all of you, and you'll be hearing from them if you're staying through the end of the conference. Enactus trained and worked with those students in order to prepare a manifesto about their view of brands based on, in large part, their own experience as future consumers and employees, but also from what they've learned here. And they'll present that on the main stage tomorrow.
I think we can applaud them. Yes, your generation. So thank you, Rachael. This is your turn to have the privilege to have questions to the beautiful activist Rachael. Yes.
Very interesting, thank you. You obviously deal with students once they're at the university. What do you think needs to change in education before that to get more people coming through who would make great Enactus students?
That's a great question. Thank you for that. You know, the World Economic Forum in January just put out a new report about education and what needs to change in order to prepare students for a workplace where, frankly, most of the skills needed a decade from now have not even yet been defined. Some of the things that we're looking at and considering doing are partnering with new educational partners at the high school level. So here in France, actually, Enactus is working with the high school level as well to determine how it is that we can spur and channel the energy of youth into values-driven social innovation, right? Because entrepreneurship will become and will continue to be ever more critical, both in global brand workplaces, but also in emerging markets where the need for employment is quite high.
I have just a question. Are you aware about the Tony Blair Institute? Because a few weeks ago I was in London. I made a keynote to many students to talk about changemakers, all the inspiring students and people I met all around the world. Are you aware about that? And are they doing a little bit the same thing with like Enactus to inspire people to be more committed?
So we are aware of them for sure, and our Enactus UK program is reaching out to form a partnership with them. One of the things that Enactus really believes is that partnership is critical, right? We all know we can't tackle any of the SDGs alone. So one of the ways that we're thinking about the two questions just answered is what are the critical engagement opportunities we have to partner with organizations like that and others.
Okay.
They're a little bit different because what they're doing is really just inspiring the impulse of to become a change maker. Our students identify as a change maker and
Okay.
come in to understand and learn how to create impact at a very young age. So there are lots of organizations like that. In North America, there's WE, which also works in the UK and a few other countries around the world. There is another organization called DECA
Yeah.
that works with students on a program similar to ours at the youth level. And we are very, very anxious to form strong partnerships to channel students into a very clear
We need
pathway
that.
from a very young age.
Other questions? Yeah. Your activator.
Hello and thank you. I've got a question. The media talk a lot about entrepreneurs being visionaries like Musk, Zuckerberg, etc. And I think it's quite detrimental. But do you think entrepreneurship is like something we have in ourselves, like innate, or can it be built? Is it for everybody?
That's a great question and a great comment, actually. So, no, I don't think entrepreneurship is for everybody, but I do believe that that the skills required to be a successful entrepreneur can be taught and gained. And what we know through our program and through our experience is that those who enter our program, I can't tell you how many times this has happened, enter the program because they want to create impact, and through the experience of developing a business and launching it, they discover a passion for entrepreneurship or the courage to become a change maker in a way that they didn't know beforehand. So whether or not you become an entrepreneur and launch your own business or an entrepreneur and go to one of these global brands to help drive change and disrupt the business, discovering that often happens through the experience of applying your skills, failing, right? We all know that, failing several times and learning from it.
So what is your response to Professor Yunus when he said that everybody should be an entrepreneur?
I think he's right in some ways. But what that means for some of our students is you have to be entrepreneurial in your career path as well. Entrepreneurship.
Even in a big company.
Precisely. Entrepreneurship doesn't just mean launching a business, right? Entrepreneurship, if you look at the definition, at least the Merriam definition, is about the willingness to take risk. And that's what our students learn through Enactus, right? Going through the process of understanding how to create a business and understand and measure risk is what distinguishes entrepreneurs from other leaders.
Thanks. A question?
Hey, Rachel. I was wondering, the theme today is fair and inclusion. That's what we were talking about this morning. And I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about inclusivity and Enactus' decision not to go to the larger universities or the Ivy League schools who already are armed with plenty of resources for its students. Enactus made a conscientious, intentional decision to go to smaller colleges and universities to give those students an opportunity that other large universities have. Can you talk a little bit about how you all are inclusive in your decision making?
Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And two questions there. So I'll address the first one. So I mentioned earlier, we have 72,000 students in our program today and growing. We operate in 37 countries. And in every country, we take a very unique market-based approach to what universities will work with and why. And Davida, who generously asked that question, is referring to North America. So in the US, where we were first founded, we made a very conscious decision to not go to the top 10 schools. Now, part of the reason is that those students already have that opportunity, right? And part of the reason is where we began, which was in small campuses aimed very squarely at first-time college attendees, first in their family, who really didn't have exposure and opportunity to the kinds of businesses that are represented here at Sustainable Brands. So one of our largest business partners in the world, who works with us both through their sustainability platform, but also their recruitment, views us as their 10th recruitment platform, right? They recruit at the top schools in the country, and then they come to us and they have access to hundreds of other campuses that they would never otherwise get to, and creates opportunity for students that they would never otherwise see. So we're really proud of that. Now, from an inclusivity perspective in decision making, what's most critical to me is that we're a global organization and we need to act so. So our country leaders, one in every one of our 37 markets, and their teams are really critical to how we think about and approach decisions as an organization. Because of course, I'm based in North America. I have a very specific perspective, and I want the perspective of our entire team at that table.
A question? Yeah, last question.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm just wondering, are you also able to attract children younger than college age?
So we spoke to that just a
You
moment
did.
ago.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But no,
I just
I'm
got
happy,
here. I
I'm happy
apologize.
to address
Okay.
it, actually. We are working very hard to partner with organizations that do similar work at younger ages. But we also, I will mention, work in two ways with our students. So after they've created their businesses and launched their projects, they compete each year at the national level in a national competition coming up at the end of May here in France. For any of you who would like to attend, we'd love to have you. And at each of those competitions, we now reach out to high school programs and other programs to bring them in and give them an opportunity to see what it's like to make change at an early age, what it's like to create impact. In addition to that, the best of those teams from around the world come together for a global event called the Enactus World Cup. This year, that will take place in Silicon Valley. Next year, it will take place in Amsterdam. We also intend to open up that event rather significantly to people of younger ages from around the world, wherever we are, to help young students understand the pathway that has been created through Enactus for them to continue to be a change maker.
So you are talking about social businesses? Yeah. So what is the percentage of them who succeed to scale up?
So that's an interesting question. We've just begun to track that. We weren't successful at tracking it in the past, but what we know is that it's increasing. So it's increasing for two reasons.
It's positive.
It's very positive. One is that our students have more and more interest. We started talking about Gen Z. They have more and more interest in scaling their businesses. So you heard from one of those today earlier on the plenary, Wessex Social Ventures, this morning, the Business in the Box idea. He is an Enactus alumni who started that project as an Enactus student and decided to scale it. We know that today the percentage is probably around 20 to 25%. So what happens to the others? The others are built with the intent to become sustainable, scalable projects. So we encourage students to consider that business format and structure when they launch their project so that they either have a community partner or entrepreneurs in the community who continue their business if they decide to go on to graduate and work for one of the brands represented here or others.
Thanks. Other question for Rachael?
So just to give the audience a sense of scale, last year, Enactus students launched 3,800 projects. They positively impacted 1.6 million people through those projects. And in a special challenge on water alone, with the support and mentorship from 5 partner companies, they impacted over 1 million people by giving them more access to sustainable, clean, potable water and improved sanitation, reduced cost by 1.6 million, and conserved over 58 million liters of water. So that's the kind of collective impact that Enactus creates. It's really quite remarkable when you consider it's only 72,000 students who collectively dedicated several thousand hours to Enactus. We're very proud.
It is inspired to be to meet such committed students all around the world, yeah, because I think and I thought that I have the best job, but I think you have the same, no?
I may have one of the best jobs in the world, to be sure. I often say when I get up in the morning, I read several newspapers to understand what's happened overnight, and I'm quite depressed, often angry
course, yeah.
and motivated, and then I go to work and I'm happy, privileged, and optimistic. So I do indeed have one of the best jobs in the world. Thank you.
Same, yeah. So the last question for Rachael, yeah.
Hello, thank you for your presence here. I have one question because thanks to Enactus, we learn a lot of things, and learning by doing is, for me, a great experience and a way to improve and to build a better world. So, but what is your vision of Enactus as a school of the future? could it be a model for other school?
Could you repeat the question?
Do you think that Enactus could be a model for other schools? Because we learn a lot, and so we learn by experience. So could it be a school or inspire other schools, for instance?
Absolutely. Experiential learning, we know, is one of the most powerful ways to learn, and we know that in part because of the data we collect externally, but also from our own impact data. So, like you, Enactus students tell us, first of all, 92% of them would recommend Enactus to their peer, another student, and 43% say that Enactus is preparing them better for the world than college, which is interesting and maybe not so good when you think about tuition rates. But that said, what we know is that experiential learning works, and we know that from you, students like you. And so what we're really focused on is telling that story to more universities and to more companies. Because what Enactus really does is prepare students, as I said, for the future of work, whether it's in a large company, a small company, or their own company. And so helping more universities understand the value in that and join our program is really critical to our growth. There are some markets, not unsurprisingly, China is one of them, where we simply can't keep up with the demand for growth. We have 20,000 students in China, and we can't grow fast enough to serve all of the students who are interested in our program there.
So thank you so much, Rachael,
Thank you very much.
to be a hot seat speaker. Thank you.